We are live. We are live right now covering the Alexandra Paul Baywatch chicken rescue trial. We're going to go straight out to Merced County. We've got Michelle Del Cueto, who's our reporter on the scene. What's going on outside court, Michelle?
Hi there. So the defendants and the lawyers and the activists are gathered outside to take a group photo after what seems like the last day. So I'm gonna just quickly show it to you.
Yes. Wow. Take a look at that. They're all, well, can we go up and talk to Alexandra? I see her right there. I see Wayne. Let's
Yeah.
hear what happened in court today.
Yeah. So Alexandra's here.
Yes.
Today.
Wow. What was that testimony like, Alexandra?
Nerve-wracking, but I was well prepared by Wayne, and it was interesting because the opposing counsel has upped their game again, because that's what they have to do each day when they realize what they're up against. And the DA who was doing all the crossing before is no longer doing the crossing. The other prosecutor is now doing the crossing, and so I got Travis Colby to crossing me today. He didn't ask me anything on value, which I thought was interesting, because yesterday Alicia was very much crossed about value and did she care about chickens, and insinuating that if she cared about chickens then they must have value. And as we know, to be charged with a petty theft you have to take something of value. So that's why value is an issue here. But Colby didn't ask me anything about value today, which I thought was interesting.
Now, do you, anybody from our panel, we have an amazing panel here, would love to ask you questions. My question to you is, did you get any sense from the jury? Were the jurors allowed to ask questions, that they're sympathetic, mostly female juror, but a very rural agricultural area?
The jury did ask questions of Alicia. They asked questions that led me to believe that they still need to be more convincing. It wasn't something where I went, woohoo, these are great questions for us. They asked questions like, how did you know where the sick chickens were on the truck? And Alicia answered beautifully because she did such a great job. And there was another question. There were three questions for Alicia. One of them was not allowed. And the other one, I forgot what it was, but they were okay. They were okay. And for me, I was asked a question about, did I ever go to Foster Farms, or did anyone in DXE go to Foster Farms and ask if we could have a sick chicken? So they're obviously wrestling a little bit maybe with the straight legality. I think they might be with us on the moral question, but I'm not worried, because tomorrow we have Kirsten Rosenberg, who's going to talk a lot about how sick these chickens were, and of course we've got Wayne and who's brilliant at closing, and Chris Caraway, and I think they'll really be clear with the defendants about what the law is. And I believe that we've convinced them that these chickens have no value to Foster Farms, and that there was a mistake of law issue here, and that Alicia and I believed, because I really did believe, that what I was doing was legal and right.
And now I understand, and please jump in with questions. I got a shocking note that the prosecutor asked to re-examine defendant Alicia Santurio because he just figured out that Wayne Shung was the founder of Direct Action Everywhere. It blew my mind. How could he have not known that Wayne Shung, one Google search, if you look at Wayne's Wikipedia, the very first thing that comes up is that he is the co-founder of Direct Action Everywhere. How could he have not known that? That's shocking to me.
Actually, it was more than that. They wanted to expose, which we're proud to expose it, but they wanted to expose Wayne's prior history as an activist, including his issues in court. And I think Chris Caraway did an amazing job just explaining to the judge that this was unprofessional, and the fact that they were coming up with it now showed how they were just starting to work on this case halfway through the trial, that they didn't take it seriously before. They're taking it seriously now, but it's too late.
Wow. Nathan, you're a former district attorney. What's your question for Alexandra?
Thanks, Jane. Hi, Alexandra.
Hi, Nathan. Thank you for being here.
Of course. It's nice to see you. Just a couple of quick questions. I'm curious. I know the judge was deferring his ruling regarding the DXC video. Now that you've testified and Alicia's testified, has the judge actually given a ruling on whether the video will be allowed to be shown to the jury? And one other question is, are character witnesses going to be allowed?
My character witness, I'll answer the second question quickly. My character witness, Daphne Zuniga, did testify today, and she was wonderful. And I couldn't have asked her better. I didn't know what she was going to say, and I was moved. And for your first question, are you talking about the undercover video of the slaughterhouse?
Yes.
Yeah, that so far has not been allowed, and that means Raven won't be testifying, which I think is disappointing. But on the other hand, I think that it's going to be all right, because we've talked about animals being boiled alive and buried alive, and that is still going to have, I think, an effect on the jury. I don't think they even need to see video to understand what goes on in these factory farms after the testimony today. From Celeste Yamada also testified, and she was terrific. She took care of the chickens after they were rescued.
Wow. Do you expect this to go to the jury tomorrow?
Maybe. We have Kirsten Rosenberg, who's a very important witness, and she might get quite a bit of cross, but then we rest. So it's very likely that our attorneys, Chris Caraway and Wayne Shung, will be able to do their closing statements tomorrow. I don't know if that's good or bad. Nathan and others would know better if it's good to do it at the end of the day. And then, but by Thursday, for sure, it will go to the jury.
Wow. All right. Fantastic panel. Any questions for the amazingly gracious Alexandra Paul, who is on trial, who could go to jail for 6 months, and yet she stands there and talks to us? Paige, you're always full of questions, honey.
I saw Donnie Moss raise his hand. Go ahead, Donnie.
Okay, excellent.
So,
Donnie,
Alexandra, what did Alicia say in response to the prosecutor's question about how she knew which chickens were sick?
That was a juror question, and we basically how she knew that the chickens were sick. Alicia answered it brilliantly. She is a very experienced caretaker of chickens, and she basically talked about his splayed legs and the comb that fell that was almost yellow and had fallen. She also made a really important point, was that one of the things that she did this today. One of the things that people have been saying is, like, how did you get to see those chickens so quickly when as soon as you opened the door, there were sick chickens there? Oh, that's such a coincidence. And Alicia made the statement today that that's the question we should be asking, is why did these two activists come upon sick chickens as soon as they opened the cage? And that's because there are sick chickens everywhere on these trucks, because that's the nature of factory farms. So she got that point in, and I thought it was brilliant.
wow. So do you think that the prosecution is shocked by this case? Because I honestly was shocked that they did not know who Wayne Shung was.
Your voice is kind of cutting.
Wayne is famous.
That might be why.
Wayne, do you want to talk to?
Yeah, we can ask Wayne.
Wayne is
That's
going to
fine.
come and I think talk to you. I can't hear you, but I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, we'll get. Thank you, Michelle. Just maybe Wayne could ask a quick question. We're gonna have to move the mic over.
Give me a second.
Oh, of course. So while they are getting their,
It's okay. I'm gonna ask them another question.
while they're getting organized, what we'll do is get a sense of
Why are you?
what do you think of this development? Oh wait, are we back? Oh, we missed her. Okay, what do you think of this development, Mick Davudian?
Jay, specifically, you're referring to the question of how they knew the
Anything.
chickens were sick?
Yeah. Well, no. How do you react to the fact that the prosecutor did not know that Wayne
how can I
Chung
respond to
was
that?
the co-founder of DXE? Wayne Chung is famous. He has his own Wikipedia page. He's done editorials for major newspapers. Like, it's I mean, one Google search, Mick.
Shane, you want me to respond to something so idiotic? I have no idea what to say. I mean, other than perhaps this is intentional. I mean, I can't imagine they didn't look up Wayne Chung on Wiki. So maybe Nathan can speak to this. Maybe it's a strategy where they can bring one of the co-defendants back on the stand. I don't know. Otherwise, I mean, they're idiots. What can I say?
Paige, you were nodding your head. What do you think?
Well, I agree with you, Jane, that, if you're going to be working on this case, you want to have all the information that you can. So that's shocking. What surprised me today is, and not surprising, but I think the case of the context is what this case is really about. And I think they're evolving that as we go. And I think tomorrow with the veterinarian, global veterinarian, Dr. Schurston, there's going to be more information rolled out as to why the two activists would have gone ahead and wanting to save the lives of these, chickens. In other words, when I think about it, if I saw an animal that was suffering, or if I knew like a dog was going to be going to a dog fight, I was thinking about this, and I knew certainly there was going to be damage done to that dog, I would want to save that dog no matter what. So I think this is interesting development as we're going through the case, that the jury is asking questions. They're contemplating and grappling with their own moral compass, if you ask me, that I think that's important in this case.
All right, we're going to go back out to the courthouse. The amazing Michelle DeQueto.
Michelle,
All right,
can you move a little
are you
further
there
towards
with
the audience?
Wayne
I'm
now?
gonna come
Okay,
back.
you're gonna talk to her. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I apologize. There's like
No worries,
a
no
little
worries.
bit of issues with
Go ahead.
signal, but
Go
I'm gonna
ahead.
come back to Alexandra. And if you
Oh, okay. All right. I really have to go back to this because I'm very, very perplexed. I have covered many trials, okay? Famous trials. And it would never occur to me that people who are prosecuting a case would not know that the very basics of the case, that the person who is the most prominent attorney is also the co-founder of DXE, is also somebody who was arrested himself. That's why they said they wanted to reopen it. And that was also famously acquitted in a similar case in Utah not that long ago.
Well, what's happened with this case is that people have looked at it as just a petty theft case, and oh my God, 2 chickens, and they haven't taken it seriously. They just didn't realize that the defendants were direct action everywhere, which is a formidable force. And this is not a case just about 2 chickens. This is about animal cruelty and the power of factory farms to abuse animals. So they didn't do their homework. They just didn't do their homework. They thought, oh, this is just a petty theft case. And then into the trial, they realized whom they're dealing with. And one of them is Wayne Chung.
Wayne, we were shocked when we found out that the prosecutors wanted to reopen their cross-examinations because they had apparently just discovered that you're the co-founder of DXC, and you have a Wikipedia page. I mean, you probably are very modest, but you're famous. Everybody should know who you are. It's just shocking to me. Do you think that they really didn't know who you were? You think they really didn't know who you were? Do you buy it?
No, I think my sense is it was deliberate, that they were trying to get in evidence they otherwise couldn't have get in. They've done this a few times now. Foster Farms has done this too. They're attacking the attorney to get to the defendant. It's highly improper. And I'm honestly a little surprised the judge entertained it as long as he did. I think he made the right ruling. But yeah, it was interesting. And you grasp at straws. I mean, there's a classic ad hominem fallacy that when you can't win on the merits of your argument, you attack the messenger. And that's 100% what they've been doing throughout this case. But we've got a lot of work to do, unfortunately, because we have one very important witness still on our list, Kirsten Rosenberg, and then we're probably going to close tomorrow, so I need to start preparing my closing argument. But
Absolutely.
today was dramatic for sure.
We don't want to keep you from preparing your closing argument. Last question. What were the highlights of Alexandra's testimony? That is the key moment of this case. A famous actress taking the witness stand. What were the key moments in her testimony? Then we'll let
I
you
love
go.
what you said when the prosecutor asked, well, did you give the chickens back? Would you give them back to foster farms? She said, no, why would I? They were abusing them. I just think that's such a simple and straightforward explanation for why no, you're not entitled to have these animals when you've shown you're going to abuse them. I thought Daphne Zuniga's testimony was fabulous, and I mean it got to the point when my client was crying. I mean, I was moved too, just because, and it just shows you the pathos of the courtroom. That, I mean, there's so much stuff in the world right now that's so meaningless and so frivolous, and we're talking about the freedom of human beings and the suffering of animals in this courtroom. And that's a nice contrast from the inanity of so much of modern life. So it's scary. And tomorrow could be the day my client goes into a jail cell. Could be the day that a jury in California for the first time in history defends the right to rescue. We don't know. Either way, we're going to make history. And we'll do the best to make sure it's the latter, not the former outcome.
Thank you, Wayne. We'll let you get back to work. I know you're preparing your closing argument. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Amazing work. Wow. I think they all deserve a round of applause, including Michelle, who's doing such a good job out there. Dotsie, you are a personal friend of Alexandra Paul. You do a podcast with her. What's your reaction to the fact that she testified today? She was cross-examined. She came out with flying colors. She's positive, although, as Wayne said, you can never predict what a jury is going to do.
Yeah, she's really, her spirit has been so up this entire time, right? I think I know that she feels like whichever way it goes, it's going to be historical. And Wayne just said that. She has such a deep, rich, meaningful love for all life. And I know that that's exactly what came across on the stand today to the jurors. And, we talked yesterday about the sick chickens and that they didn't, they weren't seen sifting through the truck to find the 2 sick chickens because they're all sick. And so I'm really curious to ask her, and just to wait and see, as we'll probably find out by tomorrow, if that then brings up the one of the biggest points of this whole case is that the entire truck is sick chickens and dead chickens. And if that is going to emotionally move the jury.
I think that's a very good question. I want to play a little bit of Alexandra's explanation in her own words of why she did this extraordinary thing. Let's listen to this.
I'm proud to be going on trial facing a theft charge for rescuing sick, suffering birds from a foster farm slaughter truck. I spent 5 years starring on the television series Baywatch, playing a lifeguard who saved lives, and today I save lives in real life as an animal cruelty investigator. My name is Alexandra Paul. I've been in over 100 movies and television shows, but the thing I'm most proud of is my work rescuing animals from factory farms and slaughterhouses.
I wonder if they got in, a quick question, I wonder if they got into her past, the fact that she's been arrested before. Did they mention that at all, Michelle?
No, they didn't. The prosecution was trying to ask, about Alicia specifically, because she was mentioning, like, I have investigated foster farms multiple times, and just talking also about open rescue. And the prosecution was trying for her to say, do you think it's legal that you go into these farms and trespass? And she was explaining, well, this is like the lesser harm, because we're trying to go inside and expose what foster farms and many other corporations don't want the people to see. So that was kind of like an intense argument. But for Alexandra, there wasn't much about asking her. She did mention that she has been involved in an investigation in an egg-laying farm. And she also mentioned about the investigation for the dairy farms, the
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, the prosecution didn't go more in depth into that.
Wow, interesting. Thank you so much. I want to ask Nathan, it's shocking to me that they didn't push harder on that, but maybe they can't. I don't know what the law is.
Yeah, it's highly improper to ask if a person accused of a crime testifying on their own behalf has ever been arrested. And the reason for that is because an arrest is actually, proof of nothing. It's a conviction that is an actual finding. So it doesn't surprise me that they weren't allowed to ask about an arrest. I don't think the two women really were afraid if it did come up. I don't think they're afraid to discuss their history of rescues, because I think it, in a lot of ways, it credits their testimony that these aren't amateurs. They know what they're looking for. They investigate before they rescue. I think there was testimony regarding, conferring with counsel before they went out there that day. So, I think these are the things that are going to be really important to the jury to hear, that these aren't just sort of, vigilantes. These are people who are truly, experienced in what they do, what the signs are that they look for. And that's why they did what they do. That's why they do what they did, because they saw the signs and they knew what was going on inside those crates, and they knew what was destined for those two chickens and the rest.
Meanwhile, thank you for that explanation. These young people, mostly young people who are out there doing support for the trial and protests, nothing stops them. There was a tremendous downpour today here in California, and here is the protest that they held immediately outside the front door of the district attorney's office.
I'm going to start with the story of the time I went inside one of Foster Farms' barns. Right right here. And I don't think I'd be the only person who's been in one of those barns who would say that it's one of the worst barns that they've ever seen. One, double, one, five. Human freedom, animal rights. One, double, one, five. Animals' lives are their rights.
Getting bold.
Animals' lives are their rights. We will not give up this fight. Don't fight, you may lie. Animals do not want to die. Don't fight, you may lie. Animals do not want to die.
All right, Ellen Dent, Animal Alliance Network, who is joining us despite having tested positive for COVID. I know you're under the weather, but you don't want to miss this. I hope you're feeling better. What do you make of the fact that, speaking of, hard times, it was extremely windy, very cold and rainy, and that did not stop a protest outside the DA's office?
I think it speaks to the resilience of the activists. They are out there, sunny day, rainy day. I'm sure if it was snowing, they'd still be out there, because they want to fight. They want to fight for these other animals to have rights at all costs, and that includes their discomfort. And I find it really admirable.
Yeah. And do you, Paige Parsons Roach, also another activist who has been to many of these vigils and protests, do you think that the district attorney and the prosecutors in there have no idea what hit them? Because now we hear from Wayne that he doesn't think that they didn't know who they were. He thinks they did know who Wayne was, but pretended not to know. However, I can't imagine that they anticipated the kind of protest, the colorful, we're just giving you 1 minute. These are almost like Broadway productions.
Well, certainly, I let me just say this. I think that whenever I've seen a protest prior to being vegan, I steered clear of those, what I thought were sort of crazy people. Now knowing what I know and what I've seen, having gone to some of these really early morning chicken deliveries at these, going into slaughterhouses with the chickens, seeing these birds that are some of their, claws are hanging out. They're laying there desolate and dirty and look like they're literally on their deathbed right then and there. I did not know prior to going vegan what was going on. I got to tell you something. As a consumer, as a mom, I'm conscious about the purchases that I make. And if I had known this, I mean, the lies that were told over and over again about, oh, this is humane and kind and lovely and all this, what I'm going to say is crap. That to me is why I would take an action. So I think, yes, jury on the inside is probably very shocked, saying, whoa, I mean, these are people just like you and me that are, wow, there are people out there that are in the cold rain making noise like this. Whoa, I gotta take a deeper look at this. That's what I think.
Thank you for that. By the way, here is the number and the email of the Merced County District Attorney, Nicole Silveira. And DXE is urging everyone to politely ask them to prosecute foster farms, not the animal rescuers. We'll put this up over and over again during our commentary today. I want to play something that Dotsie Bausch asked me to play, which is a video of a previous open rescue that Alexandra Paul was involved in. And, I don't know if this has become part of the trial, but here is what she's done prior to rescuing the chickens. Why was that so important for you to talk about? It's so emotional, but why do you think it connects to what's happening in court right now, Dotsie?
Well, Alexandra sent it to me the day that her twin sister was there. That's who you were seeing Alexandra hand this very sick and broken dairy calf, 75 pounds though, from its crate into her sister's arms. And they had to walk over a half a mile to the getaway car with a 75-pound calf. And I just think it's just such a beautiful juxtaposition of these sisters, these twin sisters, and their just immense and expansive love for all life. And it just continues to show you that part that is really whole Alexandra. Is just not the part of her life, that she will do always whatever it takes to stand up for the voiceless and for the thrown away. And the podcast that we do, we talk a lot about dairy and the horrifying reality that is dairy, and that a mother has to be pregnant, and they are pregnant for 9 months, just like human mothers are, and they give birth to their young, and that those beautiful calves, whether born male or female, are stripped away almost immediately within 24 hours, so that then we humans can drink their milk. And we're still living in a time where people don't even realize that cows have to be pregnant to give milk. So we have a lot of education to do, but investigations like this and rescuing like this are what help to make people wake up. I had to wake up I drank and ate dairy for 35 years of my life, didn't ever think anything about it, and was sold that it was critical to my athletic performance and output. And uncovering that it's all a lie was, well, it was one of the best things that ever happened to me.
Yes, and I want to go back to Wayne, to Mick Davutian. It's almost like we're living in two worlds. It's like there's the world of people who have woken up, and I know woke is a big term these days used in a lot of different contexts, but in terms of animal rights, it's like people who have woken up and people who haven't woken up, who still regard animals as there to be used, abused, and killed based on just, oh, I feel like it. It's like two different worlds today, Mick.
It's true. And, up until not too many decades ago, people lived in smaller communities and, farms were smaller farms. This whole idea of the industrial animal complex and the modern day factories, they're literally factories churning out animals, is fairly new. And so a lot of us, including myself, we grew up in cities. I mean, I think until about 10 years ago, I hadn't met a cow in my life. And to this day, I'm a little scared of big cows. But the little calf that was in the video that I'm so glad Dotsie asked you to show, I got to meet her very shortly after her rescue at the sanctuary. And I was blown away. I mean, they're so forgiving. She was obviously a baby. All these animals are babies, even when they're killed. They don't live beyond, a few weeks or a couple of months. And when I went to say hello to her and pet her, I was a little timid. Again, I'm a little scared of bigger farm animals, having never really grown up around them. And she came right up to me and kissed me, licked my face. And I have a photo of that I cherish.
Oh, that is so
we
beautiful.
really need to make that connection. The problem is so many billions of people live in large cities where we are basically surrounded by pigeons and maybe, a rat here and there. And the idea of animals is completely foreign to us.
Absolutely. And I'm a big pigeon lover. Somebody said we have the greatest contempt for animals that manage to survive and thrive in our midst. And pigeons are very smart. And I feed them all the time. And I've had screaming matches in New York City because I want to feed them and people attack me. And I go, well, you could skip a meal. All right, let's go back out to Michelle Del Cueto at court. You were at the protest. Tell us a little bit about the importance of that protest.
Yeah, well, I wanted to add that Christina Louis, who has been involved investigating the horrible facilities from foster farms, including the slaughterhouse, she gave a very powerful speak out directed to the prosecution, because we are most sure that Atwell and Cosby were inside of the building when we were there outside doing our protest. So
you're saying the prosecutors, you're pretty convinced that the prosecutors in this case, you're saying were inside the building when you were having the protest. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Oh, wow. So the idea was to send them a message personally?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the main message and narrative from this trial has been since the beginning, prosecute foster farms, not animal rescuers. And that's why you see this beautiful banner that is a drawing from Alexandra and Alicia that a lot of people put their hands into creating. And we also had the photos of Jax and Ethan, both Jax recently, shown him as a flourished individual, as well as the photos when they were just recently rescued and they looked in very poor conditions. Yeah, so I mean, you were all talking about the dairy industry and about the investigation that Alexandra and her twin took part in. I think it was very powerful to also hear in the courtroom her sharing the horrible methods that the dairy industry use with the cows and how they castrate them, literally using a how do you say, a tie, like tying their testicles until they fall down with no anesthesia, like no, like nothing.
Can I jump in and ask a question? Was she able to talk about that today?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm confused. I thought it was sort of limited to chickens. You're saying she was able to talk about cows and calves today in court, Alexandra Paul?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think that Alicia was the one that shared the most about like the conditions inside foster farms because she has been investigating them. But then then Alexandra could share a little bit of her involvement in open rescue because right when she took the stand, Wayne wanted her to explain about the concept, like elaborate a little bit deeply in like what's open rescue. Why is this tactic something that has deeply touched you and you have been continuously been participating in doing open rescues? And then she shared about like the dairy industry and some of the practices that this corporation was doing.
Last question. Did you get any sense from the jury? You know, when I'm in court, I usually like to look at the jurors' faces. What's their reaction? Yeah. Did you get a sense that?
Yeah, I mean, I do have identified like my favorite jurors, and are especially the ones that I see very moved whenever there's some testimony or a specific like argument, and I see them like being like horrified or kind of like you see their faces. And I saw one of the jurors doing a face kind of like horrified when Alexandra was sharing about this. And I mean, like Celeste Jamara, who also gave the last testimony of the day, she was sharing how bad Ethan was, like how he couldn't even stand. He had like his legs spreading and all covered in diarrhea, how he wasn't even able to drink water. And I saw also the jurors like making faces, like sad faces and horrified just thinking. And we also were able to see a video where Celeste was giving care to them, like touching them very gently. And you can see Ethan, like how his legs were so spread, like so deformed, that like it was pretty clear to the jurors, like these animals were such bad conditions, like you cannot even imagine, as well as mentioning the coronavirus that they were infected with, or Ethan was, and how infectious it is. And Jax is also infected with this, so they are still quarantined until, well, he is still quarantined until today.
Yes, and thank you. I'm not able to independently confirm anything about COVID, but that's a really, really insightful description of what happened in court. And I think it gives me an entirely new perspective. I wasn't aware that they were able to really take that ball and run with it. My gosh, Donnie Moss, that is a little shocking in a good way to me that they were able to talk that in depth about open rescue.
That is great to hear. And, and another point of view that we haven't really considered here is that, yesterday the truck driver who was a witness for the prosecution described the sort of filthy conditions on the trucks and didn't know the answer to the question as to how many chickens arrived dead at the slaughterhouse. So he painted a pretty grim picture of what goes on in those trucks. And that was cemented in the testimony of Alicia and Alexandra, I believe. And you have to wonder if the jurors are sitting here or listening to this testimony and thinking, what is it that they're feeding us? What are we eating? Even if you take the humane issue off the table for a minute, I think Ellen referred to the moral compass of the jurors, but I think it's even more than their moral compass. Like they're actually consumers of these things. And this is probably off-putting for them. And perhaps they're saying to themselves, you know what, I'd like a system where animals aren't treated this way because this affects me personally.
Yeah, and I want to bring in some breaking news. Yesterday, we had great breaking news on this show that Donnie Moss and his team, and I know it's a big team, but you're a very big part of it, has gotten Nike to stop slaughtering many, many thousands of kangaroos for soccer shoes. That was a huge victory, massive campaigns. Well, we've got more breaking news today about the chicken industry, and good news and bad news. Let me put it this way. So here's something that was just published, and that says Tyson Foods to lay off 1,700 workers and close 2 chicken plants. And I think that is very significant. It goes on to say in its latest quarter, the meat giant said its chicken business underperformed expectations. Now, again, this is not the company involved in this trial, which is Foster Farms, but it's the chicken industry. That's the good news. The really bad news that horrified me is this. Okay, the USDA announces more than $43 million investment in meat and poultry processing, research, expansion, and innovation. That makes me sick to my stomach. Mick Davutian, your thoughts on that?
Well, it is disgusting, but remember, 43 million is really a drop in the bucket. I mean, it sounds horrible. It is horrible. It's our tax dollars going to these horrid industries, but it's a drop in the bucket. I mean, these industries are ginormous. I mean, it's incredible. People on the average person has no idea. Yesterday, somebody was questioning on Facebook how many chickens are killed in the US per day. And you have to go get a calculator to come up with the numbers and double check and triple check to really understand that the 2 million chickens per day is actually accurate, 2+ million. And that doesn't even include chickens used in the egg industry, which is yet another enormous industry in itself.
Yeah, it's people think this is tradition. No, we didn't have giant industrialized warehouses that are called concentrated animal feeding operations, where hundreds of thousands of animals never see the sky, never touch grass, are raised and slaughtered as children. Let's show you the video that the judge will not allow the jurors to see of the undercover investigation by Direct Action Everywhere before the open rescue, which Alexandra and Alicia said is a key reason why they did this, because they know what fate would await every chicken that goes into the slaughterhouse. Contrast that, it's very upsetting, I know, but it's the reality that the jurors will not see unless they watch a rerun of this after the trial's over. They're not supposed to look at anything that involves the case during the trial. But contrast that with the statement by Foster Farms. Here is how the New York Times described it. 140 chickens killed every minute on each of the 4 slaughtering lines. So every minute in that facility, 140 times 4 chickens are killed. Live birds seen thrown, crushed, left for dead, suffocated under piles of dead birds. Some are not properly stunned before they killed. And the USDA, the same agency that's going to give $43 million to expanding the poultry industry, has reported seeing evidence that the birds are dunked alive in boiling water. Here is what Foster Farms says. And I want to point out, we invite Foster Farms on anytime. Foster Farm says the priority and the welfare of the flocks entrusted in our care is the highest priority. In 2013, the company became the first major poultry producer to be independently audited and certified by the American Humane Association, and continues to receive outstanding animal welfare audit scores. All Foster Farm team members that come in contact with our flocks receive comprehensive annual animal welfare training. Video observation and review at our local facilities ensures that appropriate practices are followed. And it says Direct Action Everywhere has proven itself to be an extremist organization with a self-proclaimed goal of discouraging consumers from eating any meat, poultry, fish, or dairy. I want to get everybody's reaction to that. What would you like to say to that? Michelle, you're out there, you're the reporter on the scene, and you're also a member of DXC.
Well, I feel really bad that, you know, these corporations, because they are like the high commands are not doing the dirty work, and I just feel really bad of how they can see this footage that they already know that is existing and just throw this statement to clean up something that they already know, like it's just inevitable. You cannot, like there's no valid argument that you can say to defend what is happening, and especially also for the workers, because we know that historically workers have been violentized because they're the ones sometimes like doing this like animal cruelty like violations, but just getting into their mindset of imagine what it would be to like work at these places 24/7, don't even have like access to, you know, go to the bathroom, take breaks. Like imagine just sucking all of that, all the violence that you have to experience every single day, and just know like this company doesn't even care about you. Like it has been reported that there's an ambulance that visits Foster Farms.
You know what? I have to stop you right there because I cannot really talk about anything that we can't independently confirm. I know that we invite Foster Farms on anytime at all. I know that in general, the industry has been a hotbed for COVID, that obviously slaughterhouse workers were coming down. We all know that with COVID at a greater rate than the general population. But I can't confirm the independent details that you've mentioned. But the big picture is the video. The video is the video. And what's your reaction, Ellen, to the fact that the jurors are not going to see that video, apparently?
I think it's really unfortunate that they're not actually going to be able to see what was awaiting those chickens after they got off the truck. Because what they're trying to prove in this case is, you know, to get the right to rescue, you know, these individuals off this truck. And to do that, you need to show the danger, the grave danger that they are in and are, you know, going to be facing once they get off the truck. So I think it's really unfortunate. I'm glad that they are able to give a description at least. It sounds like a lot of those jurors are taking that and, you know, really absorbing that into their minds, what is actually happening, you know, when those chickens get off those trucks and when they're on the trucks too, with the driver confirming that they're in their own fecal matter, that they are crammed in there and that it's completely unpleasant.
Yeah. I just want to get everybody's reaction or some other reaction to the footage. Because, you know, one image tells a story. You could read 100 books about chicken poultry processing, but all you have to do, Paige Parsons Roach, is take one look at that video. It tells a story.
Yeah. It tells a story. It tells a true story. This is the worst nightmare that's happening right now to billions of animals around the world because of our selfish choices to consume them. So circling back to, you know, we need to be responsible that we're causing this, but also prosecuting Foster Farms for what cruelty is happening inside of their factory farms. Now, again, millions of animals, billions of animals are being slaughtered every single day. And until I knew, I did not know what was happening because we're so fooled. We're so lied to. So many commercials are told us how sexy and delicious and juicy all these chicken wings are and breasts are and everything else. Like they're posed as healthy. We've got a crisis on our hands. People are dying daily from heart disease. Cholesterol is only in animal products. I didn't know that. Could have prevented both my parents from dying early because of, if they'd gone plant-based, there would have been some solutions there that could have helped them. So that's one of the reasons I'm at a cause, and why I speak up is because I didn't know, and until I knew and saw the truth, I realized I gotta be out here letting people know who could resonate with my message. This is what's happening, and that is why I believe prosecuting foster farms, we're told the lie that we're purchasing these humanely raised animals. That's not the truth. You saw the video. Those of you that are out there watching this, right? We're open. We saw that. We didn't see it before, maybe, but now you're seeing it. When you see something, you have the responsibility to take action.
One of the reasons and Paige has been very much involved from the get-go. Ellen Dent has done amazing work. Mick Davudian is a supporter. Donnie Moss, everybody on this panel, and we're just making friends with Michelle for the first time, has been involved with Unchained TV, our global streaming network for animal rights, for climate mitigation, climate change mitigation, for human health. 90% of the world's problems, if not more, boil down to one false assumption that we need to kill to survive. It's killing us. It's killing the planet. It's torturing animals. But you don't see this on mainstream television. Yes, because of their extraordinary willingness to go out and get arrested and go to trial, Wayne and Alexandra and Alicia have made the New York Times. But people shouldn't have to go to jail or to risk doing time behind bars to get the truth out. Okay? Yes, these New York Times articles happened as a result of trials. Why should people have to go on trial in order to get a point across? So if you agree, please download Unchained TV. You may be watching this on the app. We're streaming on the app right now. You may be watching it on your phone. You can download it for free. You can also get it on your television via your Apple TV device, your Amazon Fire Stick, your Roku device, and we're going to soon be on all Samsung TVs. But we are doing this for one reason. We're a nonprofit. All the videos are shown for free because we're tired of being in the vegan echo chamber, talking to each other about how terrible stuff is when it's the people out there who are consuming this that need to know. I'll never forget a personal story. I was at a hotel and this lovely older lady was a waitress or a maitre d' of some sort. And she's like, come to the restaurant. We have wings. We have wings, great wings. And I went up to her. I said, those are not your wings. She just looked at me like I was out of my mind. I said, those wings belong to a chicken. They're not your wings to give away. And she just had this moment where she just kind of stared at me. And then she said, well, I eat meat, and walked away. And that's the bottom line. If you eat it, you've killed it. And, I've covered many, many criminal charges. You don't have to pull the trigger to be convicted of murder. If you are part of the group that goes into a bank or to do whatever kind of crime and a murder's committed and you're part of it, you can be convicted of murder. It's the same thing here. And I'd like to get, Nathan's thoughts on that because you are the attorney. So you're going to have to bring us back down to earth. We're talking about everything, but then there's the law, which is not always keeping up to date with all the developments in society.
Jane, you've been kind enough every night of this trial to read the statement from Foster Farms, and I get it. But essentially, then we on this panel get to watch the video, and your audience watches the video, but the jury isn't seeing the video. So Foster Farms gets away with the statement that they give, which we know is them telling us, "Don't believe your eyes. Your eyes are deceiving you." California actually has the strictest animal cruelty laws in the country. And everything that we see on that video is a crime on the books, but nothing's done about it. So now we're seeing, in court, the jury not being told the whole story. We're seeing prosecutors hiding from the truth. We're seeing minimal media attention. We're seeing government today giving $43 million to the industry. Why isn't it $43 million to alternatives, to plant-based foods? You know, it's like everything is upside down. And the reality is Foster Farms is killing the planet. They're killing people. They're hurting their workers. They are, putting us all at risk of zoonotic diseases. And what they're doing to animals is really one of the, if not the biggest catastrophe of our time.
And once again, I want to say we invite Foster Farms on anytime at all. We would love to dialogue with you. You raised some really important points, Nathan. I want to play Alexandra talking about why she did the rescue. And she says it's because she had tried to get the authorities to respond to the undercover video, and they refused to respond at all. So let's play that, and then we'll all talk about it. I want to get certainly Dotsie Bausch's reaction as a dear friend and co-host of Alexandra Paul's. So I am going to scroll up right to that right this second. And
chaos of the high slaughter speeds that workers are pressured to meet. Living birds sometimes get mistaken for dead ones and are thrown in the trash alive. I knew that this cruel fate was waiting for birds on that slaughter truck. I knew the conditions that they were raised in by Foster Farms left many of them injured, infected, and disabled. DXE had tried reporting these criminal conditions to the authorities, but we were ignored.
So, yeah, Dotsie, it's exactly what everybody's saying. She's saying one of the reasons she did this is because they went to the DA and the DA did not prosecute.
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing she says is, I knew the cruel fate that was awaiting these birds. So how does she know that cruel fate? Because of undercover investigations. So I'm still confused and very frustrated, like everyone here, that they're not showing that footage, because Alexandra told us the very first day that this trial is about the right to rescue because these birds are tortured, not because they're sick and not because they're going to be killed, because that would be a horrible case because people still think we need to kill them to eat them. So it's about torture. So how did these activists know that they're being tortured? So why can't they show that footage? Because it's what the entire case is about, is torture. I can't get over it, why that isn't a critical component, because it reveals what the activists were there to rescue them from.
Well, Nathan, why is it that they can't get this in front of the jury?
Because, I don't agree with it. I mean, I think the why is everything. And I think, the prosecution is bending over backwards to keep it from being seen, because I think it's instant acquittal. You see what goes on inside. Of course, it's a rescue. It's not a theft. They're not looking to deprive a mega gazillion dollar corporation of two chickens. They're not stealing chickens to keep them. They're not hoarding chickens themselves. It's a rescue. So they don't want it. It's troubling. Trials are supposed to be about getting to the truth. I'm a defense attorney. I used to be a prosecutor, a lifetime ago. The defense attorneys, we are often in the business of trying to keep evidence out that hurts our clients. Everything's backwards here. The prosecution is hiding from the truth, and that's not right. And I'm telling you, the jury's going to hate them for it, and they're going to do the right thing because of it, because juries do not like to be misled.
What are the prosecutors saying to the judge, do you think, that is keeping the judge from showing this torture, which is why Alexandra and Alicia are even there?
I mean, I'm not watching the trial. My guess is that the prosecution is arguing that it's not relevant, that the crime starts when they approach the truck and the chickens, and the crime ends when they run away with the chickens, and that everything else is not relevant to the crime. Now that's them speaking. That's not me. I don't agree with that at all. I mean, prosecution normally does everything in their power to prove motive, in proving somebody's intent. Here they're running away from motive because they know motive hurts them. They know motive actually completely rebuts their theory of theft. Motive here is rescue.
We have a couple of seconds left. Paige, you wanted to ask a question, then we're going to go to closing thoughts. Of course, we're back tomorrow, and tomorrow's the big day. Tomorrow is the day where we could have the case go to the jury. What was your question, Paige?
I'm just thinking it through. People have chickens for pets as well as cats, dogs, and some people even have pigs as pets. So if you have an animal that's your pet that's locked up in a car, is it my understanding you can break the window? You're not going to be charged with breaking and entering, or if you see an animal in a hot car, looking like it's going to die. Nathan.
I mean, I think every state has different laws in terms of what you are allowed to and not allowed to do. I think there was a ruling in this case that the defense can't use the necessity defense, which is just unbelievable to me, because Paige, that's exactly, your hypothetical, which is if you see a dog, dying in a car in 95 degree heat with the windows closed. I mean, what do? You're supposed to call 911 and wait and hope that the police arrive and hope that they have, the tools to free the dog. It might be too late. So you have to act. The message that these kind of cases, these kind of charges send to humane people is, well, maybe you shouldn't break that window because that's a crime. And that's really not right, because you're trying to save a life, and that's most important.
The difference is that even though there are dogs who are tortured, as a rule, we don't go out of our way to torture dogs in this society, but we do go out of our way to torture cows, pigs, chickens, turkeys, goats, and lambs. But we just keep it behind closed doors, and we pay somebody else who's at the lowest rung of the social order to do the killing for us, so we can say, oh, I don't know anything about that. I'm peaceful. I do everything with love, but I'm eating this that involved tremendous violence. And so what it is it's speciesism. If nobody probably ever would prosecute you for breaking a window and getting a dog out of a hot car if the dog was foaming at the mouth. But the trouble is that this is what they fear. If you allow this to happen, what's to stop us from stopping every truck? And it's the truth, because I have attended pig vigils where I've seen the pigs coming in, and they all look tortured to me. Every single last one of these animals they come in on these trucks without water, after days on the road, frothing at the mouth, and they all look tortured to me. Okay. And I can't sleep at night after I see the images of these trucks, because I know that I feel powerless. I can't stop it. Okay. So we've all seen, everybody who has gone to a vigil, and I urge you all to go to vigils and see what's really happening to these animals. Because people go, oh, pigs are so cute. But then if they're eating bacon, they're torturing the very animals that they're saying are so cute. These are photographs I took myself, and the powerlessness that I felt knowing that these animals, long dead now, babies, 6 months old, going into slaughter. And I have to say that once I had a couple who were going to join me, because the whole idea is to get people who, not to re-traumatize ourselves, but to get others, right? And this husband and wife are going to join me at a vigil. And at the last minute, the wife calls and says, I don't think my husband can handle it. He's afraid he's going to get sick. Well, but you're still going to eat the bacon? You're still going to eat the ham sandwiches? There you go. That's the problem. All right, we're out of time. I know that Michelle has had a very long day. I'm going to let her go first. Closing statements. Let's keep it quick. We're going to be back tomorrow with the big day. The jury is probably going to get the trial tomorrow. So join us at 4:30 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 Eastern. Final thoughts, starting with Michelle.
Yeah, well, that I missed or
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit. Why don't we do this? We'll come back to you. You're breaking up a little bit. Dotsie Bausch.
You know, Jane, my final thought for tonight is thank you to you, because you've given us a place to stand in solidarity and to educate and to lift up the brave Alicia and Alexandra and to tell the truth. So keep it up, and thank you.
Well, thank you. It's a team effort. It's a team of volunteers who make this happen, not me alone. Thank you, though. Ellen Dent.
Yeah, I second that. Thank you, Jane, and thank you all for being on here, especially all of you that have been on, day after day, to be here and be part of this historical trial and give this commentary and give your expertise. It's so incredibly helpful, and I hope that if it does go to jury tomorrow, they make the right decision. They go into their minds to get rid of that cognitive dissonance in between the individual and that truck. And, the package that they buy at the store, and they, make that connection, and they make the right decision that Alicia and Alexandra did not break the law. They did not steal them. They saved those chickens.
Thank you, Ellen. And I hope you feel better and you could join us again tomorrow. Mick Davudian, your final thoughts for today. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, I lost you for a second there. You're asking me to give my final thoughts, I believe. So I will follow up on what Dotsie was saying. I mean, thank you again for providing us this platform. I think it's critical because, as we can see, with the exception of a couple of articles here and there, media is basically on a blackout. They pretend like this trial doesn't even exist. Meanwhile, they're covering the stupidest trials 24/7 on television. And, here in the U.S., we have something called free and independent press. Yes, we have independence from government influence and so on. But just as bad is money influence, and that's what's happening here. I mean, money is speaking louder than the truth. This is why media is not covering. So I'm hoping that whatever happens tomorrow, that media will actually finally participate and give us some coverage of this outcome. Hopefully it'll be not guilty.
Yeah, and like I said, yes, they do get into the New York Times, but they have to do undercover work, go to trial, and risk going to jail, sometimes for months, sometimes for years, in order to get that coverage. And that's not fair. People shouldn't have to risk going to prison to bring a very important issue to the forefront. I believe that all of media will be absolutely ashamed, just as people will be ashamed in general of participating in factory farming as they look back on this era of unimaginable cruelty on a scale never before seen in human history. 8 billion humans raising, torturing, and killing 80 billion land animals, not including fish, every year. That's not a light topic. You can't just look at me and say, well, I care about people, because it also contributes to human world hunger. They're eating most of the food, or a good percentage of the food. More than 70% of all soy goes to farmed animals, when there are kids dying of starvation right now. Sorry, I'm getting worked up. Final thoughts. Who's next? I lose track every night. Paige, your final thought.
Last year there was footage shown of cows that had escaped a feedlot, and I can't tell you the amount of water cooler conversations I have with people that aren't vegan that were rooting for those cows to be saved and to be sent to a sanctuary. So here's what I want to say about that. As I think as human beings, we veer out of the way if we see a deer. We're not going to run over that deer. I think most people don't realize what is really happening, and I'm going to give them credit. Once you know, take action. When they die, and it's up to us. So, by the way, you can go to righttorescue.org and take action.com, righttorescue.com, and sign up for Right to Rescue, for people to have the right to rescue. So you can take action right now if you want to make an impact.
Righttorescue.com. We've got Michelle back. I'm so glad. Give us your final thought for the day, Michelle.
Yeah, well, I was saying that tomorrow is going to be a very important day because our expert witness, Kirsten Rosenberg, is going to be here, and her testimony will probably go up until like 2 hours. So we are very excited for that to happen. And I guess that my last sentiment about this trial is that I feel so excited because I participated in the Smithfield trial. This will be like the second trial this year will be the first one, but it's just, I feel that it's so powerful to be able to be, in the courtroom talking about animals, mentioning them by their names, which is something that you never get to see, especially for other species like chickens and pigs. So, yeah, and I mean, probably on Thursday we will have a verdict, and whatever it happens, we will keep protesting and taking action for animals. So, yeah, thanks everyone for your support.
And thank you for doing an excellent job. I think she deserves a round of applause, everybody. Yay. Wow. Really good job. All right. I think we've gotten to everybody but Donnie Moss. Your final thought.
Sure. 3 very quick thoughts. The first is anybody who sees the footage of Alexandra and her sister rescuing that baby calf and nursing that baby calf back to life is going to root for the activists and the calf. I worry that the same isn't true of the same people who might view the footage of Alexandra and Alicia rescuing the chickens. For better, I think we just have to acknowledge that the cows and the pigs are more relatable to most people than chickens and fish, for example. So I do worry about that. The second observation I want to make is that Foster Farms' statement about DXC's motives being extreme, I mean, obviously that whole statement is humane washing, but it's really disturbing when you break it down, because what could be more extreme than concentrated animal feeding operations and slaughterhouses and an industry which is causing antibiotic resistance, and pandemics, and destroying our rainforests and destroying the oceans and destroying species. And so animal agriculture is so extreme, but the corporate spin makes us appear to be extreme. We have a lot of work to do. And my final thought is that, Jane, you talked about, why should people have to go to jail in order to get into the New York Times so that these issues are exposed? Probably the same could be said of previous social justice movements. People, Black people, gay people, women, they've all had to go to jail in order to advance their social justice movements, because systems of oppression are in place. And dismantling those systems, which is what DXC is trying to do, is like moving mountains.
Absolutely. Very well said and absolutely accurate. And, the New York Times does go back and apologize for sexist and inappropriate stories. They go back and they look at the history and they find things that they've written that are bigoted, and they publish apologies. They will apologize for the entire media will apologize for its completely ignoring this extraordinary social justice movement. Nathan, you're getting the last word. I always lose track of who's done the final thoughts.
Well, I mean, I think most of what I wanted to say before. I just, when I see everybody on this panel and I see the work that's done by DXC, and I just hope your audience takes away from this, get involved. I'm sure most of you already are, but we all can do more. Whether step a little bit outside of your comfort zone, whether it's getting involved in grassroots political action, protests, going to law school so that you can, because there are, we need more attorneys who can do this kind of work. Whatever it is, this is a long game, and it really, we need more people doing the work, because we are up against it. We're up against government, we're up against corporations, pharmaceuticals and media, and we just have to do everything that we can. So thank you, Jane, for all you're doing.
I just want to say thanks to everybody. Absolutely grateful for, I know you're all very busy people and I'm taking a lot of your time. And I just want to say for those watching, join us, because we don't have millions of dollars to promote our streaming network the way an HBO or another network would have. We have to rely, we want to reach the non-vegan audience and the pre-vegan audience. And really, technically, we have access to approximately a third of the world's population. That's how many people have streaming devices, approximately 3 billion around the world. And this is a global streaming network. It's not in China, but it's in most other places. But we need you to promote it. You can download it. Download Unchained TV on your phone for free. Download it on your TV with your Apple TV device, your Amazon Fire Stick, your Roku device, and also soon to be on all Samsung TVs. Download it and you can share out the story. So you could take this video tonight and just hit share from your phone and share it to that uncle who loves to eat chicken every time you come over and the house smells of chicken, right? You don't have to argue with him. You could just send that video to him. So, and whoever that person is in your life or those people, I have a relative who is not vegan who told me she was watching the trial. And I thought, wow, that is huge. Thank you, everybody. Were you going to say something, Paige?
No, I was going to say, absolutely. There's a lot of content on there that is inspiring, and
including your cooking show.
Oh yeah, Dotsie's podcast. There's some in there.
Podcast and Donnie Moss's videos and Ellen's vigils. There's so much there. All right, guys, we're going to see you tomorrow. 4:30 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 Eastern. And unless there's a verdict, if there's a verdict at 3:00, we're going to go live right at 3:00 and everybody can jump on as they get notice. But right now we're planning for 4:30 unless there's a verdict prior to that. Thank you, everybody. See you tomorrow. Woohoo! And I'm going to play this final video that I put together. You guys don't have to stay, but I spent some time playing it. And with all the drama, I did not get a chance to play it today. So I am going to play it before we go.
Hi, Unchained. It's Alexandra. Thank you so much for being here and covering the trial. We really appreciate it.
Young chickens are fattened up in filthy conditions before they're loaded on a truck and transported for slaughter.